Hola, hola, my name is Jackie, and today's video will be another video on my recently started series about favorite authors. This time it's gonna be Khaled Hosseini. I'm sorry if I pronounced his name wrong. It's really hot in LA, like you have no idea. And I decided to take a study break, so I'm gonna film this right now. Okay, let's get started. The first book I'm gonna talk about these books in like release order, the dates that have been released. So oldest to newest. And the first one is the Kite Runner. The Kite Runner centers around two best friends, Amir and Hassan. Amir comes from a wealthy family and in Afghanistan, and Hassan is the servant, one of the servants of this wealthy family, Amir's family. They become best friends. They're both children. They become best friends and they have basically lived like brothers their whole lives. And the story takes place during the fall of the Afghan monarchy and the rise of the Soviet Union. So as you can tell, it's probably not a really good time for anyone. And also the rise of the Taliban regime. Sorry, I don't know much about politics. Anyway, it's a difficult time for the Afghan people, and so this tells the story of their lives basically, and how their lives are affected by these big events that are going on in their country. And it's just one of the main themes in this book is like brotherhood and family love basically, and whether someone is willing to forgive or not to forgive. I can say that I really liked it, and there's also a movie on it, but I haven't seen it because I'd probably cry and I don't want to cry, so I haven't seen it. But I really like this book, and I hope you give it a try if you're interested. The next book is called A Thousand Splendid Suns, and I have to say this one's my favorite. A Thousand Splendid Suns centers around two Afghan women around the rise of the Taliban regime, and so it was not a good time for women, as you can probably tell. The story basically centers around two women. So the book centers around Miriam and Layla. They're from two different generations. Like Miriam is older and then Layla is younger. I'm sorry. And then their lives are basically intertwined at one point in the book. The first half of the book is told from Miriam's perspective, and the second half is told from Layla's perspective. So they basically end up marrying the same man because from a series of unfortunate events. Miriam is basically a woman that is an illegitimate child. She was raised by her mother, but then her mother commits suicide, so she is left on her father's care. Her father doesn't really care for her because she's an illegitimate child, so he sells her off to this really old man, which is really sad and disturbing. But he sells her off and she has no choice. Like, what else is she supposed to do, you know? So that her story is quite devastating. And then there's Layla. Layla had a really good childhood in the beginning of her life, but then an accident happens and her life takes a 360 turn, and she is forced to marry this guy that Miriam married a couple of years earlier. But she is forced to marry him in order to survive and not be by herself during this Taliban regime. So both of these women are like mother and daughter because they've both gone through so many things that they have to have each other in order to endure. Enduring is one of the biggest themes in this book, and I think it's just delivered across quite well, even if the events are quite sad. But you can basically tell what these women have been through and how much you can appreciate how much easier your life might be in comparison to their lives, and how fortunate you can be in comparison to them. And I really love this book because it shows the strength of women and how the spirit is always undefeated, and that's what I love the most about this book. The last and most recently published is called And the Mountains Echoed. I'm not going to talk much about it in this video because I already did a full in-depth review of the book, but I'm going to give you a little synopsis. Well, it centers around a brother and sister, Bari and Abdullah. Bari and Abdullah, their mother dies when they're really young, giving birth to the little girl Pari, and so in custody of their father, right? Okay, so they are left in custody of their father, but their father marries another woman, and he basically can't take care of Bari anymore. Financially and just emotionally, he can't, and so he sells her to a wealthy family. And Buddy has a really good life because she's part of a wealthy family, and she moves to Paris. Difficult times that are happening in Afghanistan, and so she gets lucky and she has a good life. On the other side, there's Abdullah, and Abdullah has a little bit of less easier time. The story is told from many different perspectives, so you kind of have to adapt to how they relate to the story and the main characters. And I really like this book, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. I would say that if I ranked the three from favorite to least favorite, well, not least favorite, but you know what I mean, it would be, first, my favorite is 1,000 Splendid Suns, then it would be And the Mountains Echoed, and lastly would be the Kite Runner, just because the Kite Runner takes a little bit of, I don't know, just getting into, because in the beginning he talks about some politics, and like I said, I don't really have interest in politics or know much about politics, so that's why it took me a little bit more to get into it. But after that, it's quite a beautiful read, and the main central theme in a lot of Khaled Hosseini's books is family, and I really appreciate that being talked about in books, and it's told really beautifully and devastatingly as well. So I highly recommend Khaled Hosseini, and hopefully this video has convinced you to pick up one of his books or read the rest of his books if you haven't read any. So that is it. Hasta luego, amigos. Bye.